Hi everybody, I'm Todd Banner. Welcome to my channel. Well, I got a comment and I responded to it. It was about using auto bracketing on the ZS200. I did that ZS200 video about a month ago. And I meant to mention that doing auto bracketing on that camera is actually very easy. But I also thought what I would do is take the opportunity today to talk about it on the various Lumix cameras that I have, because on the ZS200 it's easy, on the G95 and the G9 it's easy, on the LX100 Mark II, and I'm assuming the LX100, yeah, you got to dive into the menu to get to it. And that's primarily because the LX100s, both models, have a dedicated exposure compensation dial. So let's get into it. I'm going to start off with the ZS200. So on the ZS200, we'll turn this camera on, and I'm going to have to put my glasses on. But on the ZS200, all you do to get to auto bracketing and exposure compensation is press the up button on the four-way controller. And then what you're going to see, so you can see on the screen there, you've got the exposure compensation scale at the bottom, and then up at the top left, you've got a little icon and it says off there. Well, that is the auto bracketing function, and you can either scroll with the top or the top or bottom controller button to get to a bracketing setting that you want. So I just scrolled down a couple times and now I have it. So I scrolled down a couple times. Now I have it set to do 3 shots, and they're a stop over, right on, and a stop under. So what you can do is, if you touch that icon, so what happens is you get a window that shows you both the exposure scale there, but also all of those auto bracketing choices. So all you got to do is scroll through there, and you can go 3 exposures, 5 exposures, or 7 exposures. The only thing that I don't like is that you're limited to the ones that are in here, and if you want to do any kind of custom ones, you really can't do it. But if you set it to, say, let's go crazy here and set it to one of the 5. So this is 5 exposures, and if I press the shutter, I'm going to get it to focus. Zoom back out. Look at it to focus. And it just took 5 exposures in rapid succession. Which means, if you're shooting handheld, that's now, if you want to do high dynamic range, a high dynamic range image, they're all going to be pretty easy for your computer software, it's Lightroom or whatever you're using, Photoshop, to overlay and create a high dynamic range image. Now, this is about as easy as it gets on these Lumix cameras. If you're going to, and I have, of course, a G95 and a G9, and filming on the G9, but on both of these cameras, or any camera that has an actual exposure compensation button, which both the G9 and the G95 has, and I'm really pretty sure that the new G9 Mark II and the S5 models, I'm not sure about the S1 models, but Panasonic seems to have standardized now on these 3 buttons up here. You got ISO in the middle, you've got white balance here on the left, and you've got exposure compensation on the right. So if you press the exposure compensation button, so you get the same thing if you press on the exposure compensation button. And from there on, it works the same way as what it does on the little ZS200. Now, my fly in the ointment is the LX100. So because you have this dedicated exposure compensation dial, there's no way to get into that menu system. Well, there is a way. It's just not as easy as the other cameras. So what you got to do is you have to go into your main menu and you have to go into the camera, click on the camera icon in the main menu and go to the last page. So you're going to go all the way down. You can actually just touch down at the bottom, a little scroll thing on the right side of the screen, and then you get, got to put my glasses on again. So then you get, once you do that, you get a menu. So you see that you've got bracketing down, like the fourth choice down, and you have to click on that to get to the bracket settings. So it's not as easy. So what I did was I added that to the My Menu section on the LX100 Mark II. If you've got a regular LX100, I'm pretty sure it doesn't have that because that was just added in the last 4 or 5 years to Lumix cameras. And so that makes it relatively easy if you're going to do a lot of exposure bracketing. What I probably should do, because the ZS100 has a very, very quiet shutter, but if I take my G9 or my G95 and I actually set it to do exposure bracketing, let's do this, you can hear this. So we'll set the same way, 5 exposures. These are a third of a stop apart, but, and boom, 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 done. So you can see that that's a really great way to get a range of exposures. And you know, if you're shooting RAW, it's not going to be as important if you're shooting RAW. If you're shooting JPEG, and shooting JPEG is okay, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You know, if you shoot in a natural profile, natural photo style on a Lumix camera, you'll get a JPEG that you can do some editing on. You're not going to be able to do as much as you can on a RAW file. But, you know, if you're shooting JPEG, yeah, you're going to run into issues with blown highlights or shadows that, if you try to recover them, are going to not look great. So, auto bracketing, if you're shooting JPEGs, auto bracketing can be a lifesaver, because either you can find one of those exposures is going to be the right one, or you can still merge those in Lightroom or Photoshop for a more high dynamic range image. And really, if you go back to film and transparency film, which is what I shot, and transparency film has way less dynamic range than digital cameras do. And so you really had to be careful with your exposure. And so practically when we're out walking around or doing any kind of nature photography, you always bracketed. They're always bracketed. You know, when it came to going from the more manual SLRs to the motorized SLRs, like I had a Canon A2E and I had a Canon EOS 3. That was really a nice camera. Those actually would let you set it up. I'm pretty sure, if my memory's not getting weird, because I'm old, but I'm pretty sure you could do the same thing where it would do a bracket and rapid succession, and of course advance the film each time. So anyway, hopefully that is a help to people who want to use the auto bracketing function and also the exposure compensation function, especially on a little ZS style camera where it's not readily apparent unless you play around with it, that you can get into the settings to do these things. But I think Panasonic does a really good job for the most part, LX100 accepted, but when you think about it, there's kind of no way around having it in a menu when there's no exposure compensation button. So, that's, to me, not a huge deal. But I think Panasonic has done a really good job in making that feature really accessible and easy to get to if you want to use it. Got to remember to turn it off, though, of course, because you're not going to need it, and you're going to, you can fire off up to 7 exposures, like bing, 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 bing. But hopefully this is really helpful to you. And if it was, hit that like button. If you have any questions or comments or any other insights, pop them down below. I try to respond to comments right away. Also, if you don't see your comment showing up, every once in a while, YouTube flags a comment, holds it for review, because I have it set to hold potentially offensive comments for review. And then, if I haven't checked in a few days, I'll see it. And I'm like, why the heck did this get flagged? There is absolutely nothing in this comment that is an issue. It's just weird. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm Todd Banner. I will see you next time.